Welcome to Ask the Expert with noted radio host Steve Sleeper. Each week, Steve interviews entrepreneurs and professionals and shares their intriguing stories of success and service. Now, here's radio veteran Steve Sleeper.
And our guest today on Ask the Expert is Mark Mockensturm. He's a tax attorney and CPA in Toledo. Mark, how are you this morning?
Pretty well, thanks.
Good, good. Hey, tell me a little bit about yourself and your firm. You know, it's kind of unusual to have an attorney and CPA together.
Yeah, well, it is, and that I actually try to market it that way. I started out as a CPA back a couple years after graduating from the University of Colorado with a political science degree, and you might wonder how I got into accounting after that, but basically my dad sort of called me home and said, "You got to get serious about your life, kid," and he encouraged me to look at some other avenue where I could make some money, and he happened to have a position open in his firm for, he was a general contractor, and he had an accounting position open, so I started doing that, and I kind of took to it, and I enjoyed that, so I sat for the CPA exam after taking some extra courses, and then once I started practicing with a small firm in our local town, or one of the smaller towns close to Toledo, I started to realize that it was good, but it wasn't something that I really wanted to do all my life, or at least not just accounting, which was primarily focused on tax at that point. So I looked into going to law school, and I worked out a deal with my employer at the time to go to law school at night and work during the day as a tax accountant. So I did that for a 4-year period and got my law degree in 1993.
Oh, okay. And your firm is Mockensturm Limited. Tell me about that and the folks that work there and stuff.
Okay. Well, after I got my law degree, I ventured off into various aspects of the law. I did some litigation work. I did some real estate work. And I kept sort of veering back into situations that would involve tax analysis or helping people with tax situations, and I realized that maybe I could combine the two and just not give up what I worked so hard to learn before. So I decided to venture off into my own practice in 1999. I left my current firm with the secretary that I worked with there was a small litigation firm. She joined me, and the two of us sort of started it up, and now I have 15 full-time employees. I have 3 other attorneys that work for me, 2 other CPAs, and some paraprofessionals and various support staff.
Wow.
So it's grown pretty well, and it's been a pretty strong trajectory. We've just grown every single year.
Well, what kind of tax services do you offer, Mark?
Our primary focus is tax controversy work, which means that we help people who get in trouble with their taxes in all different ways. People who haven't filed for whatever reason for several years at a time. In fact, our typical client that comes to us for tax controversy issues hasn't filed a tax return in over 4 years. And then we also help people who are going through audits. We help people who need to do tax planning to figure out the best way to finance a business or to take their retirement. We basically do anything that relates to tax. And the good thing about that approach is that there aren't a lot of attorneys out there that do this sort of work. Mm-hmm. It's confusing. It can be very frustrating, and folks that fall behind on their taxes, are sometimes dealing with some issues about procrastination, and they have to you have to be a counselor in some ways. But once we get them on track, and that happens quite often, we end up keeping them as regular tax preparation clients. So we keep them current from year to year. And we've built up a pretty decent group of people who we do tax returns for. I think that we just counted after April 18th this year and figured out we did over 2,500 returns.
Wow.
So Yeah, so I've got a staff of 4 full-time tax preparers who do that kind of work just year-round.
So you help individuals and businesses. I'm guessing it's primarily small businesses, but you do both, right?
That's right.
Okay,
yes.
okay. Now, I've got an IRS issue. You talked about some of those folks that haven't filed a tax return in 4 years. Is it necessary to hire a tax attorney?
You know, it's a good question, and I really try to really help them understand what is involved, and sometimes it seems as though they can handle things on their own, and I'll tell them that because, frankly, it's expensive to have us do the work. So there are things that you need to know, though. So if you have older tax years that need to be filed, you have to know that they need to be sent to particular IRS offices across the country. That you don't just send them all to one place. If you did, it would just delay things, and sometimes they get lost. And so there are sort of insider things that we know that really help the process along. The other thing is when we get involved, once we have a power of attorney from one of our clients, the IRS and the state governments, any of the tax authorities are bound by the law to communicate with us directly, and they cannot communicate directly with the taxpayer. So we put up a good protection for them so that they don't get levied, or other collection action doesn't occur. So it's that's really probably the most important role for us, is as their protector and their communicator.
Okay. And I think the key is, if you got an issue, come see you, and you'll come up with a game plan. If it's something a person can handle themselves, then you'll let them know that. Otherwise, you can help them out. You can get the situation resolved and get them on track so that theoretically doesn't happen again. Now, how should I evaluate a tax attorney?
Good question, because there are a lot of people out there who offer these types of services who aren't necessarily attorneys. And that's one of my big frustrations, is to see these companies that claim that they can settle your tax debt for pennies on the dollar, and they advertise on TV and all over the place. I would caution people to carefully evaluate those operations, because very often they don't employ attorneys or CPAs who have the most knowledge to deal with the problem. They oftentimes just get some people who think they know what they're doing, and they make it worse.
Okay.
So, and I try to get my clients to evaluate us and give us feedback online. We are all over social media. We have presence on Facebook, through FindLaw, through LinkedIn. Gosh, I can't think of all of them, but we try to make sure that people can describe how it was that we helped them, and it's usually we get pretty good. If we have anything negative, I'll address it directly. So.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Now, one of the services that I saw on your website, if you can call it a service, but if somebody needs to resort to bankruptcy, you can help them with that. So you talk about what bankruptcy is and when is it an option?
Okay. If someone needs help dealing with their creditors, sometimes a bankruptcy makes the most sense, because it is a legal process that allows an orderly resolution to problems with creditors. Once a bankruptcy is filed, there's something called an automatic stay that goes in place, and that is a very powerful tool that prevents creditors from taking any collection action of any sort. That includes foreclosures on a house, car repossessions, garnishing wages. All that has to stop. And then there's a trustee appointed in the bankruptcy process who is the sort of the referee, the person who oversees what the person's debtor's assets are and what the creditor's claims are. And if there's anything that the debtor has that can be used to pay creditors, they will help liquidate that and pay something, or if there's nothing available, they will they will make a determination that they recommend to the court that this is a no asset situation and all the debts need to just be dissolved or just resolved.
Okay.
So it's it's a very powerful tool to help someone reorganize. And there are situations where even someone who's doing okay financially but has just gotten far behind on something can actually buy or actually set up a Chapter 13, which is a repayment bankruptcy. So it's not discharging debts, it's just reorganizing them and setting up a court supervised repayment period.
So it sounded like I was going from first to fifth gear, changing gears awfully fast by going from taxes to bankruptcy. But I would suppose that if you probably have cases where somebody hasn't filed taxes in quite a few years, and they probably got some other financial issues going on there. So you can help them deal with just about any kind of financial issue they're going through as long as they want the help. Is that a fair statement on my part?
Yes, and the thing is, too, that a lot of people don't realize that certain taxes are dischargeable in bankruptcy.
Oh, they are?
Okay. Yes, there are income taxes that meet certain requirements are dischargeable, and that can be a major help. So long as the due date for the tax return is more than 3 years ago, and so long as the actual return itself has been filed more than 2 years before you would file bankruptcy, then you can discharge these taxes. There is an exception, and that is when taxes, or when the IRS, for instance, comes in and estimates someone's tax liability and does a substitute return. Mm-hmm. That makes it non-dischargeable in bankruptcy. So that's why it's so important. We really emphasize to anyone who comes in who maybe is behind that we get their tax returns filed as soon as possible so that they have all the options available to them. Because sometimes once they all get filed, with the penalties and interest, it can just be an unbelievable amount of tax that has to be paid, and you might need to resort to bankruptcy. You'd have to wait another 2 years, but it's still a good option.
And you can outline all those options. Now, what kind of debts can be discharged?
It's actually probably better to say what kind of debts can't be discharged.
Oh, okay. All right.
Can. So you can't discharge student loan debt, for one thing. You can't discharge taxes that you withhold on behalf of someone else. So like if you're an employer and you withhold payroll taxes from your employees, and you are personally responsible for that, you cannot discharge that debt. Now what else? There's really not too much.
Yeah, okay.
So it's basically certain taxes and then certain super priority things. Well, you can't discharge child support, for instance. That's another one.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that makes sense. So I haven't paid my taxes in 4 or 5 years. I haven't filed income tax in 4 or 5 years. I'm really a mess financially. I've got to resort to bankruptcy. But it sounds like as long as I'm willing to take your counsel and do what I'm told, and get a little discipline back, I can get my financial house back in order and maybe get credit again someday and all that.
Oh yeah, you can. That's one of my favorite things to see, is to help someone through and watch them rebuild their lives. And people come back years later and say, can you believe that we started out when I was such a mess and now I'm doing so well, and my kids are going to college, and that kind of stuff. So it's really nice. And there's one thing that I didn't mention about taxes that is a really important point. The IRS only has 10 years to collect taxes that have been assessed against someone. So no matter what, as long as you get compliant and you stay current, 10 years from now, you're going to be out of it no matter what. I mean, you can owe $1 million and still be out of it. The taxes will go away, at least at the federal level. So it's sometimes that's the way we have to deal with it. We have to basically present a 10-year plan and say you're going to get into some kind of a payment arrangement that you can keep up with, and just figure you have a 10-year loan. and sometimes that's the best way to deal with it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, exactly. Our guest today on Ask the Expert is Mark Mockensturm with Mockensturm Limited, Toledo, Ohio. Mark, how can we reach you?
Well, my website is mockltd.com, so mocklimited.com, and feel free to email me. It's mark@mocklimited.com, and that's mark@mockltd.com. Those are probably the two best ways to find more information about us and to reach me.
And while we got you here, what's your phone number?
Oh, it's 419-724-3499.
And we just scratched the surface, but if you do need some help, give Mark a call or send him an email or check out his website, especially if you're in the Toledo area. And brings me to my last question. You're licensed to practice in Ohio?
In Ohio and Michigan.
And Michigan, okay.
And then, of course, as if we're dealing with any kind of federal issue, we can deal with anyone in the country.
Oh, okay.
So we have clients all over the country right now. So
fantastic!
Give us a call.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks for being on the program today, Mark.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Ask the Expert with Steve Sleeper. Join us next time as entrepreneurs and professionals share their intriguing stories of success and service.